there has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch, Michael by there.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, 27-year veteran from Manhattan North Homicide Squad. And with me today is retired NYPD Detective Phil Grimaldi, and straight out of Brooklyn. How you doing today, Phil?
I'm doing pretty good, Billy. How about you?
Not bad. You know, came back from a restful weekend, and I'm ready to go. And the story that we're going to be covering tonight isn't really a crime story, but it's a very important story. It intersects with policing and rescue and all that other stuff. And what I'm talking about is that horrible case of the floods down in Kentucky, where the toll right now is at 35, and it's rising all the time. And it's just a horrible thing because in these cases, it takes a long time to find and to recover all the people. And you could see there's nothing more powerful on this earth than moving water. That's for sure. You just cannot stop it. And as a result, you just got to get people the hell out of there, you know. And they're saying right now there's a 35 people dead, but I think there's going to be a hell of a lot more once they're able to get into these areas that they're unable to get into right now. It's just a horrendous thing. Death toll in Kentucky rises to 35 with more flooding expected. Heavy rain was expected to produce more flooding across already saturated eastern Kentucky on Monday night, after flash floods in the area last week killed at least 35 people and left dozens missing. An onslaught of rainfall since last week has soaked the soil and made it unable to absorb more. The flooding has caused mudslides and topped streams, creeks, and rivers to overflowing. Bridges have collapsed, isolating communities, and houses have been torn from their foundations. The death toll was expected to rise as search and rescue operations continued on Monday. The Federal Emergency Management Agency said on Sunday morning that 37 people were missing. Forecasters said a cold front would drift over the eastern part of the state, generating more showers that could last into Tuesday. The National Weather Service in Jackson, Kentucky said the effects of the rainfall could be severe north of Interstate 64, which passes through northern Kentucky and the city of Lexington. A flood watch would be in effect from 9 p.m. Monday through 9 a.m. Tuesday for much of the area of southeastern Kentucky affected by the rain and flooding last week, the Weather Service said. In some of Kentucky's eastern counties, rainfall up to 2 inches per hour at times could cause flash flooding with runoff spilling out from overflowing waterways, the Weather Service said. Showers and storms, which were expected to arrive Monday night, had the potential to bring damaging winds to parts of eastern Kentucky, the Weather Service said. Since last week, the worst of the devastation has been concentrated in roughly a half dozen counties in the Appalachian region in Kentucky's southeast. Those communities have already been upended with severe damage to homes and families. At least 16 people, including 4 children, died in Knott County. Clay, Perry, and Letcher counties were struggling, officials said. In some areas, such as Breathitt County, communities were recovering from previous floods. The ground is saturated, Brendan D. Miller, the Breathitt County attorney, said on the county's emergency management Facebook page late on Sunday. It can't take much rain, but let's hope and pray that we get a reprieve and not much further rain that will affect us. It's been a harrowing week since Wednesday afternoon, he added. So it's a horrendous situation. And Phil, you know from working rescues yourself that, the most affected by this are older people, of course, old and the young. Old people that are somewhat immobile, they need people to get in there and to rescue them, to find them. And then once they do get them, here's these old folks, maybe not without their prescriptions, without food, without their pets, and it's a dire situation.
I think you said it all, Billy, when you opened up and you said there's nothing more powerful than moving water. Now, if you could just put that picture back up a second, I just want to point out something that there's giant steel beams in that photo that are twisted. So that goes to show you the power. I mean, that kind of gives me, I think that wasn't a picture I was referring to, but it was, keep going. It was, yeah, that one right there. Now look at those twisted beams. Those are huge steel beams. You could see in the center of the photo that there's two men, two individuals, two rescuers, how small they are next to those beams. And that gives you the idea of the power of moving water. Now, I could recall going into Tottenville, Staten Island in, I think it was around 2011, Hurricane Sandy had hit. And the devastation that was leveled on that area of New York, I mean, all across the eastern seaboard, there was damage. But I went and volunteered, and there was a home that was taken off of its foundation and it was gone. I mean, the only thing that was left on the ground was the outline of the home, basically the foundation. It was a very large home, 4,000 square foot home. And a childhood friend that I had grown up with was in that home and was killed during that time. So yes, there's nothing more powerful than moving water. Flash flooding is so dangerous because it can take over an area in minutes, not even a long period of time. And I think that, you can't mess with Mother Nature, as they say. These disasters, you made a good point, Billy. A lot of time it affects the elderly and infirmed, people that can't really get around. So a lot of times they would take a boat and go into the home, get the person on the boat and get them out of the flooded area. Again, children, obviously, maybe they don't know how to swim or navigate through deep water. So based on their size and whatnot. So those are the two definite victims profiles that would be affected greatly by this. And obviously anyone, fast moving water can take over anyone. So it's a very, very tense situation.
And like you said, this area is not used to the sheer amount of rain. Governor Andy Beshear gave an update earlier this morning about the residents and how they can start to rebuild and what they need to do if they need help.
The governor spent the morning traveling through Perry, Knott, and Letcher counties, visiting with residents whose homes are nowhere to be found. A few left with a foundation, but not much else.
Houses swept away for miles. They don't know where some parts of people's houses are. Schools, both in Perry and in Knott County, just ruined. Letcher was one of the hardest areas to get to, and one of the areas where, because people couldn't get to them, they had set up their own emergency operation.
While rescue and recovery efforts are expected to continue for weeks, there's some immediate relief for homeowners and renters in a handful of the affected neighborhoods. They can now begin getting individual disaster assistance. Applications are available for those living in Breathitt, Clay, Knott, Letcher, and Perry counties. Beshear today asking FEMA to add 7 others impacted by floods, including Floyd, Johnson, Leslie, and McGoffin, Martin, Owsley, and Pike.
Fully expect, with the damage they've had, for those counties to be added. Just keep working with us. Let's keep making sure we document the damage. This thing is going to expand.
Survivors with homeowners, renters, or flood insurance should file a claim as soon as possible. If your insurance policy doesn't cover all the damage expenses, you may be eligible for federal assistance. Make sure to take photos documenting the damage and begin cleanup and repairs to prevent further damage. Remember to keep receipts from all purchases related to the cleanup and repairs. Then there's the region's now crumbled infrastructure.
It's going to present an enormous challenge in rebuilding. And we don't have the answer to that challenge yet.
Right now, more than 12,000 remain without power. Beshear mentioning some good news over in Letcher County, where cell service has been restored. The governor also ordering flags at all state buildings to fly at half staff for the next week in honor of the flood's victims, lighting the state capitol in green, the color of compassion.
Just devastating, folks. And I'll get back to the equivalents, not even the equivalents, but what we had here a bunch of years ago. Willis Pony, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. Your question, where did the water come from? A lake? No, actually from flash flooding is due to heavy rain that just cannot be handled by, once the ground becomes saturated, it overflows. And of course, sitting bodies of water come into play also, because they're going to overflow their banks too, and then it's just going to flood the area, and it gets just really outrageous.
Bill, I think they were talking about 8 inches of rain in a short period of time. So think about it. If we get on a rainy day, it rains all day, you get an inch, inch and a half. Imagine getting 8 inches in a very short period of time, let's say two or 3 hours or so. So again, like you said, the bodies of water fill up, the sewer systems will fill, they'll overflow, and then it just goes wherever it goes. And it's really a quite dangerous situation. That flash flooding is no joke. It could happen, fill up a home in minutes. So very, very scary, very dangerous.
I remember during Sandy, and I was lucky because I lived in an area that we didn't get the flooding. We just got a lot of trees down. And that can be dangerous also because the trees, of course, can fall on your house, could fall on you, could fall on your cars, and be a dangerous thing. But my friends out on Long Island, my one very good friend lived in Seaford, and the water came into his house to about 3 or 4 feet high. And that destroys your house up into the point that the water rises to, and everything up into that level has to be ripped out. All the wood has to be ripped out and replaced, as well, of course, as all the tiles. And my sister lives a few miles away from him in Merrick, and she saw the water coming up her street, and then it just stopped.
I was
So
just
she
going to
was so
talk about
lucky,
that.
And just think about when you're there and you see this water coming, you're like, I have 3 cars. Should I move them? Oh, the cars will be all right. The cars got destroyed. Once the water rose to 3 or 4 feet high, they submerged the cars, and the cars, water destroys everything, as you know.
It's so funny that you brought that up, Billy, because I was thinking of that. And I was going to mention during the broadcast, when I went into Tottenville during Hurricane Sandy and volunteered. Now, we had no power. I'm inland. Where I live is inland, so I didn't have any water damage, but we had no power for about a week. But the area is near the water. Now, Tottenville, Staten Island was very close to the water. The water line came up about 2.5 blocks, and it was so eerie because there was garbage from every house out in front of the houses, and you just seen where the water went and it stopped. So one house almost completely destroyed, 2 houses down, not even touched. It was very, very weird, very eerie how the water just came in. I mean, that was a hurricane situation. It wasn't so much as a flash flood, but it was all the everything, the perfect storm. Everything came together, but the water just from the ocean just rushed in. And it was very odd how it went in about, I'd say about 2.5 blocks and then just stopped, like you said.
Billy Walsh, who's my brother-in-law, he reiterates the story I just told. He says we were very lucky. The water stopped at the end of their block and didn't come into their block. It was almost like divine intervention, and they were just so lucky. The other thing I wanted to mention too, and we'll get more into the this crazy storm and the flash flooding, is that many times when you get disasters, you get the criminal element comes out, and they are not on
Really?
their best behavior. They're looking to steal, they're looking to rob, and they know people are at a weakened condition. They'll go inside homes and burglarize homes that are unoccupied. So you really have to keep that sixth sense, and you have to watch your back during these incidences. There's a lot of scam artists driving around, try to sell this and sell that. I want to sell a chainsaw. Do you need gasoline? I'll go get it for you. Give me $50. Then you'll never see them again. But all these scammers are around when these tragedies and these big storms occur.
Bill, the guy that I was talking about, the home in Tottenville that was swept off its foundation, the owner of the home was a guy that I grew up with, George Dress. He was a very successful plumber. The reason he was in the house, because they were in the evacuation zone, but there had been a storm about 3 or 4 years prior, and exactly what you said occurred. He left the home was burglarized, and this time around, 2011, I guess it was, Hurricane Sandy, said, I'm not leaving. He sent his wife, I believe, out, but he stood, I think he stood with his daughter who was injured, but I think she survived, but he was killed. And again, it was just what you said, afraid that someone was going to break into the house, which had happened previously. He stood with the home, and unfortunately, a large amount of water took the house off the piling, and he was killed.
Kathy Hughes, I was driving, water came up so fast that it floated my car. I knew not to drive through floods, but the floods came and got me. Very scary, terrifying. What do you do? What do you do if you get stuck in the car and you can't get out because you can't open the doors? And now the electric system in your car doesn't work, so you can't open the damn windows. And I don't know if everyone knows, it's very tough to break a car window. That's why a lot of people have that little tool now in their car that breaks the window. And it's probably a smart thing to have that. I've tried to break windows with nightsticks. I couldn't do it. It bounced off. The nightstick bounced off it like it was rubber, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's something in the tempered glass that a big, large, blunt type object doesn't really do it unless you really use a lot of force. But they have a thing called a hole punch, which is a very small, looks like a screwdriver. That'll shatter the window in a second. Or these other tools that they sell, it's like a little hammer. You could break the window, and also has like a cutting device where you can cut the seatbelt. Very good to have one of those in your car. I actually keep something similar. I usually keep a sharp knife handy, and I keep a something else to break the window in my car. But they do sell a 2-in-1 tool.
Yeah, Home Depot was selling out of those things after these storms because when they advertise it, people are like, I got to get one of those for my car. And it's smart to have it. Like, you know, why be prepared for anything? It's like, let's buy a flashlight after the lights go out, you know, and let's get batteries and candles after the lights go out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Willez Pony, thank you again for the $9.99 super chat. I just got that tool from Adventures with Purpose. There she is.
There we go.
She just bought that tool. Great tool to have.
Thank you.
One of the things I keep in my car is a 9mm, so it sort of takes place of that hole punch.
If you could shoot your way out. Yeah, I get it.
Shoot your way out. That's for sure.
A lot of people don't realize, though, when a car is submerged in water, the pressure of the water, if the windows are closed, will keep the doors from opening very easily. So the trick is, like you said, Billy, to somehow either puncture the window or open the window slightly if it's still working electrically, and let the water in a little at a time. As the water comes in, you don't want to do it all at once because then you'll just drown yourself, but you let the water in a little at a time, and then the pressure from the water inside the car will help the door to open. So again, these are things that, I mean, it sounds like we're talking about survival of the fittest, but you never know. God forbid if you wind up in a flash flood, try and remember these type of things, and you'll get out of it safely.
You know, one of the things, Phil, it's physics. If you're in a car that's totally submerged in water and you're inside, you cannot open that door until the water inside equals the water outside.
Right.
And then the pressure is equal. But that means you have to allow the water to go over your head and to fully, just think of how terrifying that is. Ridiculously terrifying, right? So
inside a submerged vehicle, and now you're not able to breathe, and there's water. Yeah, that's a lot of terrifying going on.
It's really too terrifying to even think about letting that happen, and that's why you need one of those hole punches, or you need the 9mm.
Another thing to consider
overnight, the death toll rising to 28 after that historic flooding, and the governor saying that number could increase. Eva Pilgrim is in Kentucky with the latest. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Michael. I want to show you the sheer force of this water pushing over homes, pulling down these trees. And if you look along this creek bank here, you can see those are actually pieces of someone's homes. You can see a wall there. The water in this creek is up right now. And now it is raining once again, this area under a flood advisory this morning.
Overnight rain sweeping across Kentucky, battering the same neighborhoods already destroyed by catastrophic flash flooding.
This region has been hit harder than any of us have ever seen, maybe harder than any of us thought was possible.
Homes and businesses washed away, hundreds now living in shelters, dozens still missing. The death toll now at 28, including 4 young siblings aged 2 to 8 years old. Their parents held on to them as floodwaters rose, clinging to a tree near their destroyed home. But the force of the current pulling the children out of their grip. William Cook's brother-in-law is one of the missing. He's organizing search parties to find him.
They want closure. You know, they know about what it is, but they just want closure.
Making things difficult, the size of the impacted area. This storm, just the latest to devastate the area over the last several months. Teams of rescuers searching approximately 24 square miles. Canine units looking for survivors in mountains of debris.
We're seeing everything you can imagine, the remains of people's lives everywhere down this creek. Baby shoes and 4th grade pictures.
This complicating the search. Trained dogs picking up on even the smallest scent.
There's human scent in the water because others have drowned and been pushed through the water. There's human scent over everything that was in a home.
Among the stories of survival, the 17-year-old girl and her dog sitting on a roof after their home flooded. According to the teen's father, she placed her dog in that plastic container before swimming them both to safety. And with more than 1,000 rescues this weekend alone, authorities here are stepping up efforts as dozens remain missing.
This is what we do in Kentucky. We take care of one another.
And guys, this terrain is difficult on a good day. The governor saying they will likely be searching for bodies for weeks.
You know, when I see rescuers, and rescuers are the greatest of the greatest in the in law enforcement, they're the greatest of the greatest in fire service, and it's just that this work is so treacherous and it takes a toll on you. Talk about PTSD, seeing horrendous things, but these guys are amazing. You know, going in, recovering bodies. It's just crazy. Well, as Pony, thank you very much for $9.99 Super Chat. I'm riding shotgun with my hero, the Supreme Commander. Well, thank you so much. I don't know if everyone knows that name, but that was my nickname during anti-crime days, the Supreme Commander. It's sort of funny, but
Bill,
thank you,
know,
Pony.
that's great that Will as Pony, she's a great supporter of the show. But I was just so struck by that picture of those 4 little children. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, bad enough that they were swept away. Could you imagine if you're the rescuer that has to find one of those little kids? I mean, like you said, talk about PTSD and just the love of children. I mean, and to find one, you know, obviously in a dead situation, it's just horrible. And I mean, you know, you have to really sympathize with these people. And this town, I believe it was Hindman, which is also in the Bremen, Kentucky area, was hit by, devastated only less than a year ago by a severe tornado. So this area is really being devastated. I think 80 people were killed back then. So they're going through such a hard time, and we should really keep them in our thoughts and prayers. And yeah, hats off and a salute to the rescuers and the National Guard, the firefighters, any first responders. It's a tough job, but I'm sure they're going to get it done.
Well, you know something, even during Katrina, our emergency service, the FDNY, they went down in New Orleans. And same thing with Timothy McVeigh when he bombed that building in Oklahoma years ago. NYPD ESU was there recovering bodies. So these are special people, and it's a real tough job. And you heard the governor from Kentucky say, hey, Kentuckians take care of each other, because you really cannot count on the federal government. You know, politics gets involved. We need so many billions or millions of dollars. Sorry, this senator, this governor, or they didn't vote for it for you. You know, so it's like, it's sort of pathetic, but then we send billions of dollars to foreign countries, and when our own get in this type of trouble and they need help and they need money and they need carpenters, they need plumbers, they need people to come in and rebuild this area, and that takes lots of money.
Well, they play around twiddling their thumbs. The first responders, probably there's going to be a group from New York heading down that way. If not, they'll be coming from other areas surrounding Kentucky. And I'm sure that they're going to help as much as they can. And again, like you said, politics is always going to get caught up in it. There'll be back and forth about how much to spend and what to, replace. But I think the people of Kentucky are strong-willed. They're Americans. They'll get through it. It's unfortunate that there's a loss of life, and we hope that the numbers. I mean, Bill, when you first started out, I had a number of 26 dead, and you said 35. I crossed it out. My research that I did was earlier, so I guess the number jumped up. But I hope not one more number should go up in that.
Oh yeah, I think it's higher already, higher than that already.
The governor did say that in the coming days it was going to jump up. So
well, many people have not yet been recovered. Let's just play a little bit of this.
With this, the White House will make more than $1 billion available to states dealing with severe flooding and extreme weather.
The announcement comes as heavy rains and flash floods are battering Kentucky. killing at least 30 people, including 4 children. Up to 4 more inches of rain fell Sunday as rescue workers tried to save stranded residents. Damage to critical infrastructure, including dozens of bridges, has been impacting rescue and supply efforts.
You know, like the house that we just saw submerged, there could be someone in there. Like, how do you get inside that? You'd probably have to be in scuba gear to get inside there. And then potentially there could be someone alive in there or someone dead inside there.
And it's moving, Billy, and it's moving. So that's
when it does move, it could fall apart into a million pieces.
And yeah, if you're trying to get into there and you're scuba, and like you said, you could be killed too. So very, very dangerous situation.
According to Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, there are hundreds of people still unaccounted for. Beshear says he expects the death toll to rise significantly, warning it could take weeks to find all of the victims.
A whole lot of what we're doing right now is searching for people. You know, as I was in Knott County, we went by a group that's out looking for bodies and had one of the dogs out. We passed a house in Letcher County where someone was concerned there was somebody lost upstairs that hadn't been located yet. But we are still actively in the search and rescue.
Very serious situation right now. Reporter Jim Stratman from our Lexington, Kentucky station, WKYT, now reports the latest.
The road to recovery is a daunting one in Appalachia.
Within 10 to 12 minutes, I heard a noise and I raised the window and I seen the water and I knew I had to get out of there.
Rain-triggered flash flooding wiped out homes and infrastructure, leaving residents shattered.
I had my whole life saved him. Man, I ain't got nothing.
Governor Andy Beshear expects the number of deaths to rise in the coming days after nearly a foot of rain fell on parts of eastern Kentucky. Emergency crews have rescued thousands of people in just a matter of days, but those efforts could last weeks as first responders struggle to access damaged areas.
If things weren't hard enough on the people of this region, they're getting rain right now. There is severe storm potential today in all of the impacted areas. That is just not right.
For those who lost everything, the rebuilding process is only just beginning.
I don't know where to start, what to do, where to go. Just a lot for, I guess, people around here to take in. It's worse than anything that we've ever seen.
And it's not the first catastrophic event the state has seen in the last year. An unusual December tornado killed 80 people.
Mountain people are strong, and like I said, it's not going to be tomorrow, probably not next month, but I think everybody's going to be okay. It's just going to be a long process.
FEMA is on the ground here in several southeastern Kentucky counties trying to help out where they can. Jim Stratman, CBS News, Breathitt County, Kentucky.
Jim.
You know, Phil, it seems like a lot of these areas that get flash floods, they also get hurricanes and they get tornadoes. They're just in the weather hell of the United States. You know, like same thing you talk about New Orleans. New Orleans is below sea level. So when the floods and the storms happen, the whole area just gets, it gets filled up with water. And, maybe it shouldn't exist. I don't know. Same thing if you ever been to Italy, Venice. Venice is below the water, it's below sea level. So when the water comes up, it's almost like, how are they keeping that place still alive after all these years? I don't want people sending me hate mail right now. I don't mean Venice or New Orleans shouldn't exist, but very difficult to protect it once these storms occur.
Yeah, those areas do get inundated with water when there are these storms. However, I think they've, the super storms are the ones that they've learned a lot of lessons from, and they've created dams, I guess. And Venice, it's known for the gondola going through the area. So, and it's been around for such a long time. But yeah, it's sure a challenge, I would imagine. But, again, when you get 8 to 12 inches of rain in a couple of hours, within 7 or 8 hours, I guess it is. That's a real challenge, and that's how you get these flash floods. So they're used to maybe some of the weather, but then when you get these superstorms, it just devastates everything.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine living in an area that gets hit with that type of weather and all the time. Especially an area that's a hurricane or a tornado zone. I mean, it's the devastation is just unbelievable, and it seems like it happens, every five. Well, look, Florida has that a lot too, with the hurricanes, and
Sure, hurricanes.
there's times when they say get the hell out, and people that are Floridians that they either adhere to the warning, yeah, get out, or they stay there and they weather the storm. Think about living in, for example, the Florida Keys. I mean, when they get hit with a hurricane, it's, it's serious. It's real serious. You better get the hell out of there. If they tell you leave, then you should probably leave.
Absolutely. I know that a lot of the areas of Florida, they have hurricane-proof windows, hurricane-proof roofs and stuff like that. And then we have friends that own home down in Long Beach Island and Jersey Shore. And because the Long Beach Island area is maybe a mile wide or whatever it is, the homes are built on pilings and stuff like that. So a lot of people, they will keep all of their belongings on the second floor of the home or up high. And the water, a lot of times, will just go through. It goes from the ocean side through to the bay side, and then it'll wash out. And they're kind of prepared for storms. They'll move the cars into higher ground, or like I said, they move the belongings, the personal belongings that are valuable, up into the second floor of the homes, and they're kind of ready for it. I guess that's one of the realities that you have to be ready for when you live in a beach town like Long Beach Island.
And PB2, Bill, New Orleans has giant floodgates that surround the city. During Katrina, the floodgates held. The problem was the levees broke, and everyone knows the story, right? And I think they spent billions of dollars improving the levees after Katrina. But can that always suffice and save the city when they get these horrendous storms? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an engineer.
Well, listen, they spent the money. The Army Corps of Engineers spent a lot of time down in New Orleans. And listen, I hope they don't get any storms for the next 100 years. But hopefully, if one of these storms does occur, and there have been some hurricanes that, there was some I would consider minor compared to Katrina. Nothing as devastating as that has happened. So apparently, I guess they were able to improve on the levees, improve on the the floodgates and all of that. And let's hope and pray that they don't have any devastating hurricanes in that area anytime soon.
Well, Les Pony, thank you very much for the $9.99 super chat, and thank you for all your support of this channel. Looking at homes now in Florida, and now they give you odds of flood and fire. And sometimes, well, it's tough to get insurance. Sometimes they don't want to sell you flood insurance in Florida. And I would say, if that's the case, don't buy that house, because can you weather, having a home destroyed and not having insurance? I know I can't,
There's a couple of things. Like I said, you have to have hurricane-proof windows. You have to have hurricane-rated roof. And again, if you have power source that is other than your electric, if you have a generator, you have to keep it up high so that water won't damage it. And, wind can be pretty treacherous as well. We know the hurricanes that do hit the Gulf Coast and the east coast of Florida are usually pretty devastating. But again, those areas are kind of prepared for it. But then when you get, you get a classification 4 hurricane, I mean, you could have hurricane-proof windows and roof and all of that and still get damaged. So it is what it is, Mother Nature.
Yep. DJ Moore, Mother Nature just is. She isn't for anyone. She isn't against anyone. She just is. Les Stroud, survival expert. That's very well said.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good sentence right there.
It's very well said, but that doesn't satisfy you when your home gets destroyed,
Yeah.
And as I said, there is nothing on this earth more powerful than water. When water wants to go somewhere, nothing can stand in its way.
Yeah, I've dealt with a few floods in one of my homes in Staten Island, and just you were pumping it out of this side and it was going right back in from that side. So it was kind of scary. I was actually not to do to weather. It was a broken pipe, but during a flood and stuff. And it was just a little crazy. And like you said, Billy, there's nothing that stops it. It just, anything that it gets to, whatever level it gets to is destroyed for sure.
That's why I laughed that commercial of the guy with that boat that puts the tape and the glue on the bottom of the boat and it holds. I'm like, what bullshit is that? That's no way would that hold, you know? And there he is showing how it withheld. I'm like, come on. There's
Those
no
are
way on earth.
temporary fixes, those type of things. But yeah,
Well, temporary meaning it'll about 2 minutes it'll last, you know? That's how temporary. Tony D, so proud of our local firefighters, Covington, Kentucky, for quick response and helping those south of us. Lost is not alone. Hey, that's Midwest Equus. That's their motto. Lost is not alone. 100% Tony. Phil and I and Duty Ron, we are honorary members of Midwest Equus, and we're part of that group. And that's their motto. Lost is not alone.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great group of people that they do God's work. As we always say, Billy, in our line of work, they do God's work as well. They're professional, very impressed by them. And it's a great organization. If you want to send some money, make a donation, that's a great organization.
They're the best. Jersey Devil, very expensive to get flood insurance in a flood-prone area if you can even get it. Yeah. James O, good evening, gentlemen. What's the topic? The topic is the floods in Kentucky tonight and the fact that it's sort of a disaster area and they still need a lot of help. They need the Red Cross. They need federal disaster funds. They need FEMA. They need all of the rescue organizations to be down there because there's many people that are still missing. Kay Cooper, when I moved to Louisiana, it was law that we had to have flood insurance because before we could close on our home. I think it's probably a good idea if you can't get it, not to buy that home. You know, yes. How could you do that? Willis Pony, agreed, Supreme Commander and Detective Phil. We love it. Folks, I also want to acknowledge all you folks in the chat with the green font. That means you're members of the Police Off the Cuff YouTube channel. We appreciate all you guys. Folks that are just coming to this channel today, if you're not subscribed, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, give us a thumbs up. Believe it or not, it's free to subscribe. You can join our channel. It's free. When we talk about our Patreon and our YouTube, that's not free. And people contribute us financially, and that helps us keep the channel running, keep the channel going. It keeps it keeps Phil happy. It keeps him in.
Keeps me in Bill Parmesan.
Bill Cutler Parmesan Heroes. It keeps him in that. Keeps Josh, our engineer, happy. It keeps Mark happy. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for keeping this show going.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kathy Hughes, Jersey Devil. My parents had flood insurance to claim. They were claiming in the 70s. They were never allowed to get flood insurance again after that claim. Not in a floodplain either. Yeah, I mean, look, there's areas that inevitably they're going to get flooded, and insurance companies know it's a lost area, and they don't want to provide the insurance, and that's part of God making that area a flood area. And James O, as a certified search and rescue specialist and having responded to New Orleans following Hurricane Katrina, I can tell you there are many logistical obstacles encompassing water rescues in that region. James, no doubt, Phil and I have been on rescues. No way are we certified FEMA guys or firemen, but with our police department background, we know what it's like to go. Look, we were 9/11 rescuers. We pulled the bodies out of the pile, so we know that. We'll take our little badge of courage for that, but we don't pretend to be rescuers in the same vein as like FEMA or emergency service or you fire guys. And we give you the kudos. God bless you guys.
Absolutely.
Do God's work, as we would say,
First responders are first responders. And, we had Carol O'Razum on the other night, Detective Carol O'Razum. And about 2 months after 9/11, she responded out to the Rockeries where a plane had taken off and shortly after takeoff had crashed. And she had the horrible task of recovering bodies in that situation. That was a real hard thing to swallow. But Carol, shout out to you as a first responder. She handled it well. And she's got some real horrific things that she had to deal with in her life, but she's a good girl and she's a good first responder.
That's for sure. Jimmy Calandra, Bath Avenue story. Hey guys, just stopping by. to say hello. Bill and Phil, two stand-up guys. Everyone hit the like button for these guys. Top-notch men. Donate and slap these guys with a brick of cash. I love that's pretty funny. That's only Brooklyn could say it like that. You know, Brooklyn says it the best.
Jimmy's a good guy. He's got a great podcast. It's called The Bath Avenue Story. And right now, Jimmy's going through a little tough time. He lost a loved one. I know he had to wake in a funeral today, but he took the time out to come on our podcast and give us a thumbs up. And I appreciate it, Jimmy. Thank you so much. You're a good man.
Jimmy, sorry for your loss, buddy.
Absolutely.
Parts of Kentucky assess the damage from last week's historic storms. Governor Beshear warning residents to brace for more flooding.
Still in the emergency response mode, still doing search and rescue. Weather today may complicate that, but there is severe storm potential today in all of the impacted areas.
The death toll climbing to 30 and expected to rise as dozens remain missing. Among the dead, 4 siblings aged 2 to 8 years old. The force of the current ripping the children from their parents' grip. Loved ones of the missing organizing search parties, including William Cook, who's looking for his brother-in-law.
They want closure. You know, they know about what it is, but they just want closure.
The National Guard rescuing at least 1,000 people by air and boat this weekend alone. While on the ground, trained dogs pick up on even the smallest scent in hard-to-reach areas.
There's human scent in the water because others have drowned and been pushed through the water. There's human scent over everything that was in a home.
Governor Beshear estimating hundreds of millions of dollars in damage, with homes and businesses washed away, hundreds now living in shelters.
This is what we do in Kentucky. We take care of one another.
The areas of eastern Kentucky where much of the flooding occurred is hilly and mountainous, making it more difficult for rescue crews to do their job. Governor Beshear saying it could take weeks to find all the victims.
Wow, it's a daunting task, you know. And then when you talk about folks like Midwest Equisearch, who knows if they'll be called into this, you know. It's a monumental task, but if anyone could help out that does this for a living, and well, they don't even do it for a living, they do it, it's volunteer work, but they're consummate professionals at the recovering of humans, whether they're alive or dead. And we can't say enough about Midwest Equus and Dave Rader, right?
Good people.
Tyler, you know, it's just tremendous people. And, you know, amazing. You know, we're going to follow this story right now. You know, one of the things that you always look for in these cases is that how good is the mayor there? How good is the governor there? That's really important. It's really important to have good leadership that leads the charge and gets the money and lets Washington know, hey, we need the money and we needed it yesterday. You know, let's get this stuff going, because people are slow. You know, people will talk a good story when the cameras are rolling, and when the cameras go away, all of a sudden the money's not forthcoming. And these people need the money. They needed the money yesterday, you know?
Yeah, it's listen, I gotta say, I think FEMA for the most part has done a good job over the years with any of these disasters. They seem to get right up in there. There's always going to be you know, a kink in the armor here and there where a situation, somebody doesn't get what they deserve, or they help somebody and another person doesn't get it. But for the most part, thank God that we do have a FEMA. Speaking of FEMA, my cousin owns a hotel in Florida, and during any hurricane situations, they book, I believe it's about 10 or 20 rooms in his hotel, because his hotel is rated for hurricanes, and they have a separate power supply system. They have a huge generator that works off gas. So anytime there's going to be a hurricane in the area, FEMA does book 10 or 20 rooms, I think it is, for the FEMA workers to work out of. They make it like a headquarters. It's happened once or twice. He's owned the hotel for about 17 years. It's happened once or twice where they made it a headquarters and they worked out of there. So again, thank God for that. Federal agencies, a lot of time the bureaucracy and the back and forth takes the stage. But I think there's a lot of good people that do volunteer or get paid, work for FEMA or whatever it is. So we got to give a shout out to those people and a hat tip to them.
Kay Cooper Jersey Devil, exactly. I love them. They came to the Carolinas in 2018 when we were hit hard and saved a lot of lives. I would imagine, Kay Cooper, you're referring to FEMA, since Phil was just talking about that. And Jersey Devil said, oh, you talk about the Cajun Navy also. That's the regular volunteers, the folks that the folks that have their own boats that volunteer and go out there and save people's lives. There it is. The Cajun Navy helps a lot in floods and hurricanes. God bless them. Hey, anyone that volunteers their time, risks their lives, and goes out there to help people is a hell of a great person in my book. Kathy Hughes, I was living in Chincoteague in Virginia, Chincoteague Island in Virginia, and evacuated north. Further north we went, the worse it got. When I got home, it looked like we had a little storm. Meanwhile, New Jersey and New York was destroyed. Are you referring to Katrina or that? Well, that was in Louisiana, of course.
It sounds like Hurricane Sandy, I would think, because that's
Sandy,
when New York and New Jersey took the major hit with Hurricane Sandy. I mean, if you remember, the pictures of the large roller coaster that was taken out maybe 100 yards into the ocean and was still, it was moved into the ocean. It was erected, and about half of it was submerged under the water.
James O. Bill, you hit it on the head. The Incident Command and Operations Center needs to be on the ball when it comes to a coordinated response. James, I remember I took that course when I was on the police department called NIMS, and it stood for National Incident Management System. And it's a boring course, but something, it's a brilliant system when you have a major event like this, because it defines everything. And it keeps everything flowing smoothly. It keeps all of the different organizations, the police, the fire, the National Guard, the armed services, the government, all these people are defined and their roles are defined. And NIMS, it's called NIMS, and it stands for National Incident Management System. And I would imagine it's under the wing of FEMA, which stands, of course, for Federal Emergency Management System, a brilliant federal program that really, in a disaster, you can't do without them.
Billy, that James O, I believe, is James that we had gone to the funeral for Mora and Rivera from the 3-2. He just sent me a picture when he was down at Rescue and Recovery down in New Orleans. He's retired from the FD. I believe he was a paramedic with the FD, but he does a lot of rescue and recovery. Him and his wife Jessica have responded to a lot of different disasters. They were down at the building collapse last year in Florida. And they also responded up to Harlem when there was a fire that devastated and took a lot of lives. So they're good people. Just wanted to give them a shout out.
No, I remember James. We met him at the funeral of Mora and Rivera, and I want to say hello to James. Amazing. I just want to shout out to all of these rescue organizations. You can't say enough about them. They're just unbelievable. And if you ever have the misfortune to meet them, because you won't meet them unless you're in the midst of a disaster, and other than that, I mean, it'd be a pleasure to meet them, but you don't want to meet them because the way you're going to meet them is to be in the midst of a disaster. But they're great people, as well as, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but FEMA and all these NIMS people, they do an unbelievable job. Philly, I think we're going to move on to the big story of the day unless you have something else to say about this.
The only thing I want to say is, listen, keep these people in your thoughts and prayers. Just think about them. They're going through a very, very rough time. However, Americans are very, very strong people. Everybody's going to come together and help. I'm sure there'll be some aid foundations that might look for donations. If you can donate a few bucks, that would be great. And don't ever forget to thank a first responder for their service when you see them.
Absolutely. Folks, if you haven't heard that the United States took out a major al-Qaeda terrorist with a drone strike. And he was riding his motorcycle, of all things. And that's how accurate these drones are. They could take out a terrorist riding his motorcycle in in the area he lives. And I mean, it's not funny, but it is funny in a way that, it reminds you of that thing, you can run, but you can't hide, and wherever you go, they can get you, and we do get you. And I think tonight at 7:30, President Biden is going on the air to talk about this incident. And that's why, in case you haven't noticed, we came on a half hour earlier because we didn't want to run into the press conference in regards to this al-Qaeda terrorist that was taken out with a drone. So let me play this.
Own strike in Syria's Idlib province in the early hours of Tuesday. Syrian opposition activists and the US military have both confirmed the death. The strike happened when the suspected terrorist was riding a motorcycle across the northwestern part of the country. It is the latest in a series of strikes aimed at al-Qaeda terrorists in Syria. US Central Command, also known as CENTCOM, said that its forces conducted a kinetic strike in Idlib province where Abu Hamza al-Yemeni was killed. He was a senior leader of the Horas al-Din group. CENTCOM says al-Yemeni was traveling alone at the time and that there were no civilian casualties. Syria's opposition groups have also confirmed that. Issuing a statement after the attack, CENTCOM said, al-Qaeda-aligned organizations such as Horas al-Din continue to present a threat to America and our allies, and that the removal of this senior leader will disrupt al-Qaeda's ability to carry out attacks against US citizens, our partners, and innocent civilians around the world.
I don't know how big of a target he was. They're going to be calling a press conference, so he must have been halfway big. But I remember Trump took out that guy Moussaoui, who was like the #1 terrorist like in the world, and they accused him of starting World War III. And to me, it was a good thing, and I just like it's a good thing that they took out this guy. But we'll see the different news coverage on this and compared to the taking out Moussaoui.
Billy, I'm not sure if that was the right guy that they were talking about. The guy that I have, who was actually wanted since Osama bin Laden was wanted, so it goes back over 20 years. Ayman al-Zawahiri. I think that was a different name that news article showed. But either way, I got to use some foul language. We got the dirty, rotten scumbag that's the leader of al-Qaeda. He was the head of it. And we took him out. And listen, I'm not a big Biden supporter, but God bless the United States for getting this guy. We have a lot of dead people that we had on 9/11 in the years since. And anybody that's behind al-Qaeda or anything to do with al-Qaeda, this was the alleged leader of al-Qaeda. Good for him. He's where he belongs, probably burning in hell. And this is a great day for the United States that we are showing some strength in some area. Doesn't seem like we show much strength these days in any area, but I'm just glad in the fight against terrorism that Ayman al-Zawahiri is dead, and it's right where he belongs. And it sends a message to other terrorists that it may take a week, a month, a year, or a decade, but we're going to get you.
You know what's amazing about these drones is that seemingly they can find someone anywhere. It's sometimes it's done by heat seeking, and it's done by unbelievable like GPS coordinates, and it's like they could find someone anywhere in the world. So one of the things that I find a little bit scary about this is that if we have these, they can have these too. Maybe not to the same technological level that we do, but they can surely get these. And I'm sure the terrorists are now using drones, and that could be a scary thing. I mean, even when you hear about the weaponry being used in the Ukraine and the weapons that we're giving to the Ukraine, they're just super, super high-tech weapons that give one side a huge advantage over another.
Well, take a look at the recreational drones. I mean, they have capability of very small things. They can fly a couple of miles or whatever. But the drones that the United States has, They can fly at very, very high altitudes. They have very, very sophisticated weapons. And like you said, Bill, with a coordinated effect, they could have someone on the ground and they can use a laser pointer, the equivalent of a laser pointer, to point at a location or an object. And the drone from very, very, very high up in the sky can pinpoint a strike with that type of technology. And that's the technology that we know about. That's the technology that's not hidden. It's not top secret. That's the technology we know about. Obviously, there is technology that we don't know about. So again, like you said, it's kind of scary. And let's hope that the enemies don't have the high degree of technology that is out there. Unfortunately, we have China that steals every technology that ever comes onto this earth. So we got to watch them as well. But it's a good day, and I applaud the United States military for taking out this. I called him a scumbag before. That's what he is, a terrorist, an animal that wants to inflict pain on innocent people. So, again, hats off to the United States military for getting this guy.
You know something, one of the things that, just to underline the use of drones, drones are supposed to start delivering stuff from Amazon to us. If you live in a rural area where a drone could just drop it on your driveway, that's a different thing. If you live in an apartment building, the chance of that package ever reaching your apartment of practically zero.
Yeah, right.
And if you live in a private home, it's away from, they could drop it right in your yard. It's the same type of thing. The usage of drones in prisons, prison inmates are getting things delivered to them by drones, not legally, but they're doing it. That's scary too. Like, how do we control this? How do we control the airspace so a drone doesn't fly over Elmira State Prison and drop, all kinds of drugs to the inmates?
Yeah, we've seen that happen for sure. And, a drone, there's been jailbreaks with helicopters where they fly into the yard, the prisoner gets on the helicopter and they take off and stuff like that. So, yeah, the technology, obviously, we're talking about the United States military using it in a positive way, defending the country, going after terrorists. But again, you do have these other people that have different ideas, and the criminal mind goes to work. And, maybe they're dropping little packages of narcotics over the fence in a jail and, spreading the narcotics around the jail and making money off it. So there's always somebody that's got a criminal mind out there that's going to use something for something else.
We used to say if they used their mind for non-criminal things, they would do great things because they would be very genius,
Yeah.
Kevin Fahey, do you like fighter jets? Yes, the U.S. must always maintain air superiority over everyone. That's 100%. And as long as we do that, we'll always be number one. And naval superiority also, we're sort of watching this thing with Nancy Pelosi and like laughing. It's like a political quagmire that because she says she's going to Taiwan, China's threatening us with war. It's like, it's so crazy, and it's obviously like a political, ping pong game. Like, oh, we're going to go to Taiwan. Oh, well, we don't want you going there. So we're going to threaten to do this, that, and the other thing. It's just crazy.
You know what I think happened there, Billy? I was watching some news reports about that earlier, and apparently, the administration, the Biden administration, said something publicly that the Pelosi team didn't know about when they said the military didn't think it was a good idea that she travel there. They didn't know about that. One hand wasn't telling the other hand, two different branches of government. And I'm just happy. And I think there's partisan support on both sides of the aisle for this trip, because we cannot have China tell us what to do, where to go, and how to do it. That's unacceptable. I'm not a big Pelosi fan either, but I applaud her move that she's doing it. God only knows the real reason that she's going, but whatever it is, now that it's out in the public, she needs to go there. We got to show some strength in some areas throughout the world. We're on a world stage here. We're supposed to be the most powerful, strongest country in the world. We need to be able to move about with freedom and not have anybody threaten us with, we're going to take the plane out of the sky. I doubt that's going to happen. And I applaud Nancy Pelosi's team for going ahead with the trip.
Absolutely. Folks, we decided to cover this story today, and we changed the time. We're on almost for an hour. Thank you so much for joining us with this story. It's sort of a non-crime story, but like a rescue type story. And we think we should stay with it because it's important to our country. And rescues like these are all part of the police service, the rescue service, the fire department, and very important stories. Phil, final words.
Final words. You made the point about first responders, people that are in the military, people that are in the fire service, the National Guard. You got to tip your hat to them. Americans are very, very strong. They're resilient. They always band together in time of crisis. And I think that's what we're going to see here. God bless the families that lost loved ones, and keep a thought and a prayer. And Bill, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the show that we have coming up on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. We're going to cover the Dog Day afternoon story. It was an actual bank robbery with hostages that went awry in Brooklyn. I was actually present as a 12 or 13-year-old boy at the time, and it's going to be a great show. We got a lot to talk about that. It was a motion picture that was made about it, and it won an Academy Award. So again, Wednesday night, 9 p.m., we're going to talk about the Dog Day afternoon saga.
Guys, I can't go through all the chat and thank you all again individually. Just know that we love you guys and thank you so much for making this show what it is. And I want you all to have a great night, and we'll see you very soon. We'll see you the latest Wednesday, and I'll probably see you tomorrow with Coffee with Cannon or Backyard Beverage, Bitchin' with Bill, whatever you want to call it. Have a great night.
Cooking with Bill. Stay safe, everybody.
One episode just ain't enough.